What up, and welcome back to another Malazan Book of the Fallen video. This time we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking about why Malazan is the perfect thing to pick up if you just finished up with your Wheel of Time read through. So let's get into it. All right, so just lay the ground rules. This isn't my why you should read Malazan in general. I already made that video. You can go check that out somewhere on the channel. It's like why you should read Malazan just overall. This time I wanted to really get into why you should read it after you read Wheel of Time, because I know that there's been a couple of big channels, Mike's book reviews, and also Murphy Napier just finished up her big read through and has amazing Wheel of Time videos. So I thought that there might be a lot of folks out there who just finished up WoT and are wondering what to read next. So I think Malazan is an awesome candidate for that, and I wanted to talk about why. One thing I want to get out of the way up front is that I love Wheel of Time. I'm a huge Wheel of Time fan. It was a big part of my journey, and so in no way is this video meant to disparage Wheel of Time. Great books. It's one of the few series that I actually have like all the hard copy books for, because I really do love it. So full disclosure, I'm a huge Malazan fan. This is a Malazan dedicated channel, but I'm also a huge Wheel of Time fan. I came up on Wheel of Time. I read it over a decade ago for the first time. I've been reading it again in little bits, getting ready for the show to come out. And so in no way is this meant to trash talk Wheel of Time. I absolutely love Wheel of Time. I'm a huge fan. But at the same time, I think, the apt analogy that we were joking about in the Discord is that, Wheel of Time is kind of that like cool guy in high school that everybody loves and is like good at sports and going into the Marines, and just all the girls want to date him, and all the guys wish they could be him. Malazan is like that dude's older brother who like gets in bar brawls, rides a Harley, smokes cigarettes, and drinks just straight up Jim Beam. So yeah, that's not one of the 10 reasons, but that gives you a little taste of why I think you should be pumped to get in there. But all of that being said, I think that it was a necessary kind of prerequisite in my journey to being ready to digest Malazan, because I think that one of the main reasons why I think Malazan would be good for somebody who just finished up the Wheel of Time is that you've shown yourself to kind of have that appetite for epicness, and that is something that Malazan delivers in spades. The size and scale of the world is huge. The scope in terms of the number of years and millennia covered and all of that stuff is just absolutely mind-boggling. And so with Wheel of Time, you get all of that stuff, right? You get the ages that go all the way from our own time all the way through to kind of the beginning of, I guess, what would be the fourth age. But if you like that kind of stuff, right, and all the lore and stuff that goes along with that, then Malazan will be right up your alley. The other reason why I think that it would be a good idea, it's something for you to check out, is because as somebody who loves Wheel of Time, you're also somebody who I think has shown you've got this kind of commitment, or lack of fear of commitment, if you will, because you made it through that whole 14 book series. And so when you think about Malazan being, 10 books as a main series, you've got the kind of companion series by Esselmont, which is another 6 books. And then you've got 2 different prequel series and a sequel series that's coming up very shortly. It's got that level of just, huge dedication that you're giving up to your life, and however long, whether you kind of burn through Wheel of Time in just a couple of weeks or months or something like that. It took me about a year, I think, to get through it all. But you've shown that you kind of love that commitment aspect of really hunkering down and getting to know characters and getting invested in a new world. And so again, Malazan definitely checks that box. And then the third reason that kind of goes along with that is just the world building, right? If you think about Wheel of Time and that being one of the things that you really enjoyed about it, you've got, Amador and Amadisia and Camelin and, the Two Rivers and all of that stuff and the far reaches of like the Tuathan and the Ale Waste or Shan Chan being like another continent. Well, Malazan takes that from like a 10 and ratchets it up to like a 17, right?
Okay, you know what? You guys have me up to here.
Okay.
You're talking about just a huge world with so many different continents and ruling parties and political systems and different peoples. It's not just the Malazan Empire. There's a lot of different kind of competing factions out there. And then without, getting too spoilery about Malazan, the way the magic system works, you're actually talking about a lot of different worlds out there too. And so you get races and just like humanoid forms and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's not just races as we know it, like from the standpoint of our current world. So just the world building, the languages that go along with that, all the distinct characteristics and just climates and geographies and all of that stuff. And then the layers of the fantasy elements into that. So each culture's kind of got its own approach to magic, and the way that they do that stuff makes it just very cool. And if you nerded out on that aspect of Wheel of Time and going to the Sea Folk and Tarvalon and what they did in the Borderlands and all of that stuff, which I personally loved that aspect of Wheel of Time. Again, it takes that and it just ratchets it up to an almost unbelievable level. So I think you'll like it. One of the other reasons why I think somebody who's a fan of Wheel of Time will also like jumping into the Malazan world is because, like Wheel of Time, it delivers when it comes to the uber badasses.
Damn, girl. You a badass.
If you are a big fan of Lan Almandragoran or Rand or Tam Althor or Galad or Gawain. Maybe you're a Gawain fan. I don't know. I'm sure they're out there. But or the great captains, right? Like your Gareth Bryns, your Agelmars, etc. Again, Malazan has some of just like the most badass people that you're ever going to meet in fantasy, at least for me so far. And that's true for guys and girls. It's not just in terms of channeling or like the magery that they do in Malazan, but just straight up crazy badass fighters and soldiers and warriors and strategists and tacticians too. So if that was something that you liked about Wheel of Time, then I think you're really going to enjoy that aspect of Malazan as well. The other reason why I think it might be cool to check out is because after finishing Wheel of Time, you kind of get a bit of a sense of this, but you I think are ready for some gray characters. You get a little bit of that with Rand, with Matt, with Perrin, and some of their decision making, which can be kind of frustrating throughout the Wheel of Time, or the communication styles, etc. Especially with Rand, where he does some pretty heinous stuff, and he's like dealing with crazy trauma and stress burden, etc., and does some what I think is arguably pretty questionable, or maybe unarguably questionable behaviors and stuff like that. And with Malazan, you get a lot of characters who aren't necessarily good or bad, but have done good things and also done bad things, and it's not really told or implied who's the good person, the moral person. There's a lot of room for interpretation there, and I find this even in our Discord all the time, where we're battling about different characters and things that they did, and trying to kind of categorize them, and having still heated debates with people who both sides have read the full books and all of that stuff. And so you're again, I think, having dealt with all those different character dynamics, which are a huge part of the Wheel of Time plot and the conflict of the greater war and all of that stuff is how Rand's interacting with the Black Tower and Tar Valon and all of that stuff. You know, I think that Malazan will again deliver a richness there because there's a lot of people who you see a lot of different sides of at different points throughout the series. And so, you know, I've heard Malazan criticized as not having a lot of character development, and I agree it's not necessarily the most developed in terms of just exposition out on the page, but you do get the internal dialogue and the emotions, and you kind of get the behavior, and you are kind of left to suss some of that out on your own about what it means. And so it is open for interpretation, but I think it's there to be mined again, if you kind of think it through and dig for it and invest in it. And so for me, there's again that richness there of just all of the kind of grayness and character dynamics that go along with that, which are actually consequential to the plot too. And kind of going along with that, the other thing I think that will be a nice change of pace from like a Malazan or even like a Lord of the Rings or a Game of Thrones, even like a Song of Ice and Fire, where there's the White Walkers and, you know, there's still pretty much the common thread of like the good versus evil dynamic playing out. And this one is very much a gray story. There is no kind of one ultimate overarching evil. And so therefore there's no like one ultimate climactic moment of defeating evil or where, you know, good can triumph. That's just not the conflict that's being set up. It's much more layered than that, much more nuanced than that. And I think that's what makes it really interesting, again, is that not just the gray characters, but, you know, what side is really the good side, and is there even really a side? It's like a dodecahedron or whatever those, you know, multi-sided things, because there's just so many different factions. There is no just kind of straight up linear good versus evil or light versus dark, or, you know, White Walker versus like fire, you know, ice and fire or whatever. There's just a lot more dynamics at play, and again, I think that makes it a lot richer and more interesting, especially for, you know, a 16 book main series to really dig in and nerd out on, is that there's not just 16 books straight of people battling back and forth. It's like going around the different sides of this big multi-sided shape. So for me, that makes it rich and crazy to mine, and just, you know, really good to continue to go back and read over and over again to get more and more out of it. So, you know, again, Wheel of Time, Malazan.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
And so although there are these kind of conflicts that ultimately end up getting resolved, for me, it's much more a journey story than it is a destination story. Unlike waiting for Rand to fight Shaitan or whatever, it's just about kind of exploring the concepts, learning the world, you know, finding, yes, the answers to the bigger conflicts that are established in the books, but really it's about, you know, understanding humanity. And there's like a big, deeper philosophical side to it. And so I think that makes it really fun, is that you're really just kind of ingraining, you're kind of thrown into this world headlong, and just kind of are learning like the people in the world themselves are. And so it's very much about the journey and the richness there, and again the world building side of it and soaking all of that in, as opposed to kind of finding out what happens. And I think that is a nice little advancement or a step up, you know, after you've already kind of proven yourself on Wheel of Time, that you're ready to kind of take on that bigger thing where you're asking questions about yourself and the world, and doing that through the journey of the books. The other thing that I think you're really going to like is the magic system. So you kind of have a hard magic system with channeling, a lot of rules and dynamics about the way that stuff functions. And this is a loose magic system in Malazan, so not a lot of rules. Even the people wielding the magic themselves don't know what they're capable of in all the cases, and are constantly surprising themselves and other people with the stuff that they're busting out. So, but at the same time, it kind of in some ways resembles channeling in the way that people wield it. There's levels of power, but there's just, a lot less structure to it. And so I think you're ready to, again, make that progression into the Malazan world. And not only that, but that you're really going to enjoy it too, because it's just kind of a little bit more nebulous, a little bit more open to interpretation. Again, even within the world, the characters themselves don't know how to stack rank each other and all of that stuff. And so just, again, another layer of complexity and just something new and different that I think is fun after coming from a world where the magic system was more well defined. The other thing I would say, not to get too kind of preachy or soapboxy or whatever, but in the context of today's day and age, but not just that, also just this has been a common criticism of Wheel of Time before the fact, is that Malazan has much more open-minded interpretations, or just in those worlds, like race, sex, gender, sexuality, all of that stuff just is not a thing. Again, you can go watch my Why I Like Malazan in the first place, but it kind of takes some of those tropes that you find, or that Wheel of Time gets criticized for, and the immature treatment of the main female protagonists and stuff like that, or how they're not fully developed like three-dimensional females, and Robert Jordan gets criticized for that. I think Steven Erikson writes them well, but B, just the world that he's set up, people are truly agnostic to those issues. They, people talk crap about each other like crazy in those books, but never related to those specific things, or people's status as, black skinned or green skinned, or having tusks, or being lesbian, or being gay, or whatever. They're criticized on their merits 100% for sure, but just it's crazy reading in a world where that's just never even an issue. It's never even part of people's internal monologues, even they're not even thinking it, let alone saying it and stuff. It's just a really cool aspect of the world. And then lastly, I think if you're looking for new series, there's always people recommending Brandon Sanderson and Stormlight and all of that stuff. But the one thing I'll say about Malazan is that it's done already. So you can plow right through the main 16 books, or main 10 books if you only want to do that. And I have a whole guide on where to start with the books and what reading order and all of that stuff. But that part is all already done. There's already 2 prequel series, one of which is mostly quote unquote done, another one which is going to be done soon, and then he's actually adding more to the first prequel, and they're actually adding a sequel series, of which that first book is coming out next year. So unlike many other authors and series, he's delivering and stepping up to the plate. We're looking at you, Patrick Rothfuss. But no, I think that's a killer feature too, is that you can make the commitment, step in, and just knock it out and have tons and tons, and just enjoy, again, as fast as you care to burn through them. So those are my main 10 reasons why I think that you finished Wheel of Time, you're ready to graduate onto Malazan. In the Discord, we've joked that Wheel of Time is like the high school diploma, maybe, or the college degree, and then Malazan is going to be the PhD in fantasy. So, pick them up. I got links to all the books below. You can hit them up. I think you're really going to enjoy it. You can jump into the Discord and find out more. I hope you do. I am just all about getting people into the books because, like you, I loved Wheel of Time and was looking for something bomb, and I'm happy to report that we found it. So jump in. Let's do it. Join the Discord. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. I've got chapter by chapter guides, so once you do pick them up, you can read along with me and join the journey. So other than that, I hope to see you again, and happy reading.